Hi guys, James at Rampant Lion Reviews again for you today. For this one, we are going to do another out and about video for you. So today I'm in Brooklyn in New York State, and we're going to have a little look at this place behind me, which is actually pretty famous. I was surprised at how kind of nondescript it would go when we turned up. So this is Other Half Brewing Company, very well known for their IPAs of course. So we'll go in, we'll do as we always do, we'll try some of the beers, we'll have a walk around, and we might have a chat to some people. So yeah, definitely very cool to be here, a very well known brewery. Let's get stuck in, and I hope that you guys enjoy this one. Alright guys, so this is the original location of Other Half on Centre Street here in Brooklyn. I have to say it was pretty kind of nondescript. I really didn't recognise this when we drove past it. We ended up having to park a couple of minutes away and then walk down. So yeah, I would have thought you would see Other Half on the side of the building or something, but apparently not. So yeah, they took over this place about 10 years ago apparently, and they've just gradually been expanding it. But yeah, you can see you're right under one of the big kind of highway bridges and stuff. You've got a McDonald's outside if you get the munchies. But yeah, it's kind of interesting to be here in Brooklyn of course. But yeah, you can see they've got the big entranceway for the deliveries and stuff like that. And yeah, so you come over here, they've got a few seats outside where you can actually sit. Then you've got, yeah, the Other Half Brewery. You see the symbol on the door? There we go. And yeah, you come in and you've got all of this here. It's a really nice bar actually, this one. So yeah, I think it's really quite nice in fact. So yeah, all the brewery and stuff is through the back there up to the right. But yeah, merchandise and stuff over here. And a nice tap list, and yeah, that's that. So if you walk up this way, you can see up here they've got some of the vessels and things like that. They've got their big canning machine over here. There's Mr. Dave. What's up? Hello. And then yeah, obviously the brewing kind of continues through there. But yeah, I've filmed a couple of videos already. Dave's trying the black IPA, which you'll see on the video a little bit later. But yeah, you can see my space is empty. I need to order something else, so let's do that. Alright guys, so here's a little look at the tap list here at Other Half in Brooklyn. So yeah, we've got Blue Crab IPA, 6.5% ABV. The Witloof, which is a Belgian single, 5.8. The Breakfast, or however you want to say that, which is a Hefeweizen. Dave tried that one, it was pretty interesting. Ideal Wave, which is a 6.5% IPA. All non-applicable, everything. So yeah, alcohol-free IPA, be curious about that actually. The Hot Dogs, which has quite an interesting hop bill I have to say. Luminosa's a hop I've not come across before, I have to say. Then the Big Motueka, that's going to be a lovely big limey thing. I do enjoy Motueka hops, but both of those are about 6.5%. In the middle, yeah, Thank You for Juicing, another New England double at 8.3. Lost in Space, that's kind of an 8.5%. Or Classic Citra Galaxy. The Mixed Berry Crunchy Berliner Weiss. I've not tried a sour beer from Other Half, so that could be interesting. This one really caught my eye. Green Flowers, West Coast IPA, 6.8% ABV. We will be trying that. The Classic Broccoli, 7.9%. Interesting hop bill there. I do love a little bit of Hallertau Blanc. The Doug Cascadian Dark Ale, very interested in that too because I love a good black IPA. A few collaborations with Monkish at the moment as well. So the New York City Freshie at 8% ABV. Ferrari Window at 8% as well. Extra Space Glitter, which I do like the name of, and probably when it comes down to it, we will we will be trying that one out of the collaborations because I like the name the best. But JFK to LAX, a triple IPA. MEN, I'm not sure what airport that would be, but yeah, JFK, another triple IPA, 10.5% ABV. Then they've got the barrel-aged Golden Cooks at 15% ABV, and I love barley wine, so we will absolutely be trying that. They've got a few draft cocktails as well. Aperol Spritz, Gin and Tonic with Yuzu, the Hellfire, Hail Satan, we do like that. A few different wines, some snacks in there as well, and some dry cider. So yeah, really nice little tap list here at Other Half today actually. We're filming this one for you on the 1st of September 2023 incidentally, just so you can see. Alright guys, well, time for our first tasting then here at Other Half in Brooklyn. So to start off with, I thought we would go for the style that this brewery is best known for, the New England Hazy IPAs, and we're going to go for one of the ones that's a little bit of a staple. This is one I've seen in Scandinavia many times. So this one is the Broccoli, comes in at 7.9% ABV, so New England Hazy, Imperial Double, whatever you want to call it, IPA, and this one is hopped with Cascade, Hallertau Blanc, Mosaic and Simcoe. So these are all hops we've encountered before. Cascade, the OG American high alpha acid hop, 8% alpha acid, always gives you a little bit of a nice kind of figgy and kind of grapefruity type note. Hallertau Blanc from Germany, 11% alpha acid, gives you this big white green grapey sort of thing, a little bit of gooseberry as well. Mosaic, 14% alpha acid American, usually kind of orangey tangerine. Then you've got Simcoe, which is 12% alpha acid, and it gives you this lovely soft passion fruity note. But yeah, you can see that this beer is kind of poured exactly as you would expect. For those of you who are watching abroad, this is a 4-ounce measure in America, so I guess that's maybe about 150-ish millilitres. But yeah, you can see lovely kind of bright, pale yellow, golden, you know, mango juice colour, I guess we'd say. Good level of haze to it. Remember, the colour of your beer depends on a few things. 1, the type of malts that you use. This goes a long way to determining your EBC rating. 2, length of your wort boil will play a role. The longer you boil the wort, the more the sugar's caramelising, which you get a darker colour of beer. But any barrel aging you do or adjuncts you put into the type of colour too, you don't very often have to care about that when it comes to IPAs though. Level of haze in these New Englands depends on the oak content, wheat content and to the degree of the yeast. And this one, it's not the soupiest and gloopiest in New Englands I've come across, but it's actually quite, it's kind of getting there. I mean, it's kind of what you would expect for a sort of 8%-ish New England double. Not too much in the way of visible carbonation, a wee bit of a stream on this side of the glass, but yeah, it looks pretty nice. Nothing surprising about the appearance. Let's have a wee look at the aroma and see what this one has for us. Oh yeah, this is quite nice. So straight away you get the idea that this one's quite wheaty and quite oaty leaning. For me, there are 6 directions a New England IPA can take. You know, it can be more farmhousey and yeasty, it can be a little bit more riding and grainy, like quite a few American New Englands are like that. But you've got the wheaty bitiness, oaty creaminess, barley malt bread, and the sweeter side of things, and those elements are a bit more common in European brewed New England IPAs. Yeah. So for me, this one's a bit more wheaty and oaty leaning. A little bit of wheaty bitiness at the back of the nose, soft white bread crust underneath, fresh white bread of course. American bread for me is always a little bit sweeter than European bread, so you've definitely got that in there. Teeny little bit of woodiness as well, but you get quite a little bit of oaty character out of this one. And the other thing I would say about this is that it's not the sweetest of New England IPAs. You don't get too much in the way of that kind of Werther's Original butter candy, butterscotchy sort of thing coming out of this one. So yeah, this is pretty cool. On the hoppy side of things, your green component is really quite bright and quite floral. Remember, you've got 3 types of hoppings with IPAs that you can do. Early edition hopping takes place usually within the first hour of the wort boil, gives you a big kind of deep dank aroma, and that contributes most to the bitterness. Late edition hopping in the last half hour of your wort boil, a little bit of bitterness but mainly flavour and aroma, and then dry hopping after the wort boil is complete. That's going to give you pretty much all flavour and aroma, and it translates to quite a bright green component. So lots of floral character in this one, a little bit of a kind of zesty grassiness as well. And you've also got a little touch of that smooth earthiness that you're going to get from Hallertau Blanc, the German noble characters coming out in this. But you've also got this really nice mix of fruits in here, so you're definitely getting a little bit of kind of juicy orange, like tangerine orange from the Mosaic, the soft passion fruit from the Simcoe's there, and I'm getting quite a little bit of the oily kind of gooseberry white green grape, which is the Hallertau Blanc, definitely. The Cascade, I'm not getting too much of that, to be honest with you, but I think we'll get more of that in the actual flavour. When you've got such high alpha acid hops along with Cascade, Cascade tends to show itself a bit more in the aftertaste in my experience. But yeah, really nice aroma this one, and this is my first time trying this beer. I never actually bought a can of this one to do a sit-down review of, but maybe we'll do that today. But yeah, let's have a taste of this one and see what it's all about. So this is the Broccoli, 7.9%, my first beer here at Other Half Brewing in Brooklyn, Slange. Oh yeah, that's really, really nice. Yeah, I mean, I would say with this one, it's actually quite nice and creamy. It leans a lot more toward the oaty side of things than you would believe from the aroma, to be honest with you. You get a lot more oatiness out of this. But yeah, backbone of the beer is kind of what you'd expect. Soft white bread crust, a little bit of kind of cracker sitting above that, little hints of wood as well, but then fluffy white bread in there from the barley malt. You can feel a denser wheaty white bread on top of that. Then you get the oats, and the oats are a little bit creamy. They're also giving you a little bit of dryness out toward the edge of the palate, and in the dead centre of your tongue you get a little bit of Werther's Original butter candy, butterscotchy type thing. That's the concentration of your alcohol for sure. So yeah, back third of your palate is quite similar. The bread crust is a bit drier. You get a bit of a kind of wholemeal brown bready layer in there, which is a bit taller and more airy. Then above that you get this lovely fluffy white bready character as well, which again is lighter, more airy. Bit more of wheaty bitiness on top of that. Then you've got the yeast, so you've got this quite dense, sweet, brown bready character from the yeast, kind of wrapped in honeycomb a little bit actually, but definitely flavours taller on the back half of that, the back third of the palate. As you come into the middle third of your palate, it condenses down and squashes together a bit more. But yeah, on the hoppy side of things then, a little bit of earthiness in the back corners of the palate. As you move further forward, it's a little touch herbal, and as you push toward the front corners of the tongue, it's got a lot more floral aromaticity, and round the front curve of your tongue, a lot more kind of grassiness coming out of it. So it's really nice how that pieces together actually. On the fruity side of things then, front third of your palate. So yeah, front third of your palate then. A little bit of bread crust, but a lot of kind of dense and sweet white bread. Then you get the fruity side of things out of the beer. For me, at the back of that front third of your palate, there's a little bit of the stronger grapefruit, which will be the Cascade. Then as you come further forward, it mellows out to give you that kind of ripe mango, passion fruity note. That's the Simcoe that's going to give you that. Then as you move into the front half of that front third of your palate, you've got the nice kind of white-green grapey gooseberry notes from the Hallertau Blanc underneath. And then you've got the juicy kind of tangerine oranges from the Mosaic sitting on top of that. This beer is so nice at source. It's just so creamy and so smooth. But yeah, I think we can move on and finish off with the mouthfeel then. So yeah, mouthfeel wise, for me this is kind of top end of mid-bodied, bottom end of full-bodied. Carbonation is quite smooth. Pardon me. It's a mix of creamy and sort of wet and slick, this particular New England IPA actually. In terms of its IBUs, I'm pretty sure that it's kind of like 40-ish IBUs, which is standard for a New England double usually. Could be a little bit less than that, and I think we're getting some smoothness. I wouldn't be surprised if there's a bit of like cryo oil or incognito or something like that in here. But yeah, the malt, as I've said, a bit dry underneath, smooth in the middle, a bit sweeter and creamier on top. Then you've got the lovely fruity characters. Very nice balance between the sweet, between the kind of softer tropical notes and the more oily orange and tangerines and things like that. Lovely beer this, and this is my very first time tasting this one, which is kind of one of their core beers as well actually. So yeah guys, that was the Broccoli, a 7.9% New England double IPA, one of the kind of staple beers here at Other Half of their original location in Brooklyn. Let's leave it at that for this one. We'll go on to something else in just a wee second. Cheers. Alright guys, so little look at some of the merchandise here then at Other Half. So yeah, some quite interesting t-shirts and caps I have to say. I did like the camo one. You can see some of the hoodies up there, front and back. And yeah, you've got a few different t-shirts here, just you know your kind of plain black, sort of grey, green one. Yeah, but then you've got your caps up there, which look quite nice. I do like the one that's kind of like the beer label there, that's kind of interesting. But yeah, a broccoli hat of course, and then you've got the finger snapping one. A few of the glasses and stuff too, which I think are quite nice there. You can see the Breakfast of Champions one, the Other Half one, that's like a lager glass thing. You've got the little sort of tulip one. But yeah, a few different things. You can even get the broccoli lighters and stuff as well, which are kind of cool. But yeah, they do have a few kind of stickers and bottle openers and stuff like this too. So yeah, quite a nice little interesting selection of merchandise here at Other Half. So yeah, it's good. Alright guys, well, time for tasting number 2 then here at Other Half in Brooklyn. So yeah, the next beer we're going to have a look at is a style that I very much enjoy, but not one that you often associate with Other Half actually. So this was quite exciting when I saw it. So this one is called Green Flowers. It comes in at 6.8% ABV, and this one is a West Coast IPA. Now the hops in this one are Strata, Amarillo and Idaho 7. We know all of these hops quite well, all of them are American. Amarillo is a nice kind of 12% alpha acid, oily orange sort of thing. Idaho 7 gives you those kind of softer, more kind of apricot-y, papaya type tropical fruits, and then Strata is going to give you a nice kind of oily strawberry character as well. But you can see the beer has this lovely kind of pale golden straw colour, quite a little bit of visible carbonation in this one, and when it poured it had about 2/3 finger of a frothy, I would say, kind of white coloured head. But yeah, 1 or 2 big bubbles sticking toward the side of the glass, which looks nice, and you can see, as I say, a very clear pale golden straw colour. For me, West Coast IPAs can lean 2 ways. They can be a little bit more bready and biscuity, such as Pliny the Elder from Russian River, or they can be a little bit more oily and caramelly, such as, Torpedo from Sierra Nevada. Those would be the 2 kind of benchmarks for me. This one, just by the colour, I think, is going to be more of a kind of bready and biscuity type affair. So yeah, we'll see how that kind of comes out on this one. But let's have a wee look at the aroma and see how we get on. Nothing overly surprising about this beer in terms of its appearance when you consider what style it is. But yeah, let's have a look at this and see what it's all about. Oh yeah, this is quite interesting. You don't get too much in the way of like a big hoppy dankness out of this one. Yeah, this one's actually a more kind of mild smelling West Coast IPA. So I do think this one might well be a little bit more along the lines of just, yeah, kind of bready biscuity one. But at 6.8%, it's obviously not the strongest one you're going to come across either. So it's definitely a single. But it gives you kind of everything you'd expect. It doesn't smell as if it's going to be too deep and dank, but we'll see. Quite a number of the modern West Coast IPAs can trick you in that sense. But yeah, the backbone of the beer for me, lovely kind of fresh white bready bread crust, soft white bread on top of that, maybe a little touch of woodiness but not overly much, and it has a little bit of like a McVitie's digestive biscuity sort of thing to it. As I say, it's not overly sweet compared to some West Coast IPAs that you'll get, and it's not too overly kind of boozy either, just because of its ABV. But yeah, I mean, for me, yeah, just a little bit of biscuit, white bread crust, a little bit of cracker and wood underneath. But yeah, it gives you everything you'd kind of expect of the style actually. So yeah, in terms of the green component of this one, there's a little tiny bit of earthiness in there, really not very much, but I get a lot of nice kind of bright floral aromaticity and kind of grassiness out of this one. So yeah, the way that this beer goes together, I think, is really, really very nice actually. So yeah. So yeah, the way that this beer goes together is nice in that sense. So lovely kind of soft grassiness, lovely nice little bit of floral aromaticity and things. And yeah, the kind of, as I say, the sort of the fruitiness that you get out of this one's quite interesting as well. So for me, on the fruity side of the aroma, it's quite it's got a good little bit of like a soft mango and apricot to it. I do get a little bit of papaya and stuff, but yeah, mango, apricot and papaya, that will be coming from the Idaho 7, definitely. And then yeah, you do get a little bit of the oily orange from the Amarillo, but Strata is actually being quite dominant in the aroma of this beer, I have to say. So yeah, Strata's being really dominant in the kind of strawberry and its kind of strawberry characteristics in this beer. So really wet and really, the Strata's kind of promoting like a wet grassiness in the green component too. So that's really, really interesting for me with this particular beer. Gives a thumbs up from me. I really like this actually. So yeah, let's have a wee look at the taste of this one then and see what it's all about. Yeah, this was the Green Flowers, 6.8% West Coast IPA, Slanja. Oh yeah, that's nice. Quite wet and soft, but it gets more and more oily the further into the aftertaste you go. And as I said earlier, just from the colour of this one, as I suspected, this is a more bready and biscuity leaning West Coast IPA, this one, rather than being big and oily and caramelly. But it's really nice, actually. This is very nicely done. So yeah, a thumbs up from me once again. Yeah, middle third of your palate then. So yeah, middle third of the palate for me. You've got a lovely little bit of a kind of fresh, white ready bread crust in there. Further forward, there's a little bit of woodiness and crackery character. You often find this in IPAs these days. Then above that, you do have a little layer of like a wholemeal brown bread. Then you get a layer above that of like a fluffier and lighter white ready character too. And yeah, that is really, really nice. The fluffier, lighter white bread that you get out of this is absolutely great. On top of that, you start to get a little bit of sweetness out of this beer. And the sweetness for me, in the dead centre of your palate, you can feel it does have a little bit more of a kind of caramelly element to it. So it has got a nice little bit of that more oily caramelly character to it, and a little bit more of a kind of McVitie's digestive biscuity note to it as you move out toward the edges of your palate there, which is great. So yeah, it is a more bready, biscuity take on the West Coast IPA. Now the back third of your palate is quite similar to this one, so yeah, as I often say, you get similar flavours on the back third of your palate, just at different intensities. So the bread crust is a bit drier, the brown bready layer is a little bit taller and more airy, the white bready layer is a little bit taller and more airy, and then above that you get some of the drier aspects of the biscuit just sitting there. Then you get the yeasty notes out of the beer. So let's look at those. So yeah, the yeasty character in this one's like a very dense mix of white and brown bread. Yeah, a nice kind of mix of white and brown bread in there. Kind of wrapped in a little bit of honeycomb, and definitely the flavour on that back third of your palate is taller. Then as you come further forward into the middle third of your tongue, it just condenses down and squashes together that little bit more. So yeah, the way that this beer goes together, I think, is really nice in that regard. So a big thumbs up from me. Yeah, on the hoppy side of things then, green component. Yeah, it's in the back corners of the palate, teeny little bit of earthiness, but then yeah, as you move further forward along the sides of your palate, you get more of a... You do get a little bit more of a kind of floral aromaticity. There's a little touch of piney resin underneath, but not too much. Then you get a nice little bit of floral aromaticity out of it, a little bit spicy. Then round the front curve of the tongue, it's a little bit lighter and more kind of grassy as well. So yeah, the floral aromaticity out of this is great. The nice grassiness is there, and then yeah, it's just not too big and kind of piney as well, which is kind of interesting. But yeah, for me, that I think covers the green component. It's not too deep and dank, this one. The fruity side of things is kind of what you'd expect. It's kind of similar to the aroma. So yeah, for me, the fruity side of things, at the back of that front third of your palate, yeah, you've got a soft kind of passion fruity character. You've also got a nice little bit of you get a bit more of a juicy and oily mango as you come further forward, with wee bits of apricot and papaya as you reach the middle of the front third of your palate. Then as you move in at the front half of the front third of your tongue, it's a kind of nice juicy strawberry with a wee bit of the more oily Amarillo orange underneath. It's great, really nice West Coast IPA this. Mouthfeel wise then, we can see that this beer is kind of mid-bodied, right in the middle of the spectrum. Carbonation is quite smooth, it's got a lovely kind of wetter mouthfeel to it, which I think is great. And then you also have this, yeah, you've also got this really nice kind of, you've just got this nice kind of slickness to the beer as well. IBU wise, yeah, IBU wise, this one I think is about 50 or 60 IBUs. It's not going to blow the head off you in that sense. The malt base is a bit dry underneath, a bit smoother in the middle, a little bit sweeter on top. Then you've got that nice kind of oily, fruity character coming out of this one. It's quite well balanced between the kind of citrusy side of things, the juicy strawberry, and the softer tropical notes. Really nice West Coast IPA, this one. So yeah, that was the Green Flowers at 6.8% ABV. My first look at a West Coast IPA from Other Half, which I thought was quite interesting. Let's leave it at that and go on to something else. Catch you guys in just a second. So yeah guys, this is one thing I always like doing in breweries, is just having a little look at some of the labels and the artwork and things like that. I love that when they just kind of put lots of them on one of the doors or something like this. But yeah, you can see lots and lots of different labels here from Other Half. This is the door to their kind of cool store just behind the bar, so this is where all your kind of takeout beer will come from. But yeah, loads and loads of different labels here with different collaboration beers and stuff like that. So yeah, I have to say, love stuff like this. There you are. Let's get on to our next beer then. Alright guys, well, time for beer tasting number 3 then here at Other Half in Brooklyn. So yeah, the third beer is a return to styles that these guys are very well known for, but it's also a collaboration with Monkish from California, who are pretty awesome, I have to say as well. So yeah, this one is called Extra Space Glitter. It comes in at 10% ABV. It's a New England Hazy, Imperial Triple, whatever you want to call it, IPA. And yeah, this one is Galaxy all the way, so Australian hops for you. So Galaxy, remember, is 14% alpha acid. It's going to give you a lovely kind of quite pungent, it's going to give you a little bit of grapefruit, quite a pungent passion fruit, also big juicy mangoes and pineapple and stuff like this. So yeah, this should be quite nice. But there were 4, maybe 5 Monkish collaborations on the tap list, and literally I just picked the one that had the most sciencey name. Studied astrophysics and chemistry, so Extra Space Glitter, why not? So yeah, as you can see, once again, this one's poured a lovely kind of bright pale yellow sort of mango pineapple juice colour. 1 or 2 big bubbles sticking toward the side of the glass, not much in the way of visible carbonation otherwise, but yeah, about a half to a 2/3 finger of a frothy, I would have said kind of cream ivory coloured head on this one. But yeah, other than that, I don't think we need to say too much about the appearance of this beer. It looks as you would expect for the style. So let's have a wee look at the aroma then. Oh yeah, aroma wise, this one is quite a little bit softer. This is a lot more barley malt leaning and kind of just like soft and bready compared to the other one. I mean, at 10%, it does have a little bit of this almost like, I don't know what a good reference for Americans would be, but it reminds me of this kind of sweet that we had at home called Parma Violets, and it's just got this sort of like candy, sugar, sherbety type thing. You can smell that in it too. But yeah, soft and juicy, creamy and oaty, and yeah, quite a bit of barley malt coming out of this one for me. Yeah, so for me, we'll just break this down and describe the aroma for you a bit more in depth. As you would expect, a bit of fresh white ready bread crust underneath, a little bit of cracker, a little bit of wood as you're always going to get, but big, fluffy, fresh white bread in this one. A little bit of wheat in the back of the nose, but really not very much. Lots of big oaty character, big kind of smooth oaty notes in there. Yeah, big, smooth, oaty kind of characters for me. This beer doesn't really have a lot of sweetness, which you can quite often get from the triple IPAs. Quite often these beers do have a big bit of sweetness to them. But yeah, on the... yeah, there's not too much else to report in the malt base for this one. It is mainly bready, kind of smooth, and a little touch oaty. I'm curious to see how this is going to translate in the flavour actually, or translate into the flavour. But yeah, on the hoppy side of things, the green component of this one is very soft and oily, which is usually an indicator of like incognito or like cryo oil and stuff like this. So definitely a little bit of that going on here. But yeah, little teeny bit of earthiness, wee bit of floral character, but mainly for me like a sort of leafy, freshly cut wet grass kind of thing coming off the green component. The fruity side of the beer is actually really soft. If I was sniffing this one blind, I'd probably think it was like Idaho 7 that was in here because of how soft the tropical notes are. But yeah, for me, there's a lovely little bit of like stronger passion fruit in there. So yeah, stronger passion fruit, but then it mellows out to give you this really soft mango. Lots of papaya, lots of apricot in this one for sure. and then I do get a wee bit more of a kind of oily pineapple at the front of the nose actually. So yeah, aroma-wise, this is pretty interesting, but quite simple and straightforward, which is interesting considering the percentage of this one. So yeah, I do like how this pieces together. Let's have a taste of this one and see how we go on. So this one is the Extra Space Glitter, a 10% New England triple IPA brewed with Monkish Brewing from over in California. Let's get stuck into this one. Sláinte, skål, cheers. That's really nice. I really like that. It's actually, as I say, with the triple IPA, this is one of these ones. What I'm finding with the Other Half ones is that they tend to be quite bready and quite smooth. And yeah, the way that everything goes together, it really is quite bready and quite creamy and oaty at the same time. That's what I'm getting with that. Other Half have always been a more bready and smooth, creamy New England IPA producer for me. But I like that, I really do like that. This beer gets a thumbs up from me. I think this is maybe the strongest one I've tried from Other Half, come to think of it. So yeah, this is really nice. Yeah, we'll break this down and describe it as we always do. So, middle third of your palate then. Backbone is of course a bit of fresh white bready bread crust. On top of that, you actually get this really wet and kind of sweet white bread, but then above that you get a drier white bread layer. So there's two different layers of white bread in this one. So yeah, the bread crust, the little bit of wood, the little bit of cracker, the dense wet white bread, then you've got the fluffier white bread above that, and then yeah, you start to get the big oaty creaminess out of this one. So you've got that big oaty creamy sort of thing. But what you'll find is that the further into the aftertaste you go, the oaty character just kind of dries out quite a little bit. You get quite a bit of the oaty character just drying out in this one, and it gives you that sort of sweet Parma Violet, almost like kind of sherbety candy type flavour. That's really interesting. I've seen a few breweries attempt this kind of flavour, but Other Half are doing it really interestingly. I'd be curious to know what it is that actually gives you that particular flavour, but yeah, the way that this beer goes together, I think, is really nice in that sense. But the oaty character in the dead centre of the palate is very smooth and kind of creamy. As you move further out from it, it gives you a little bit of a kind of softer, yeah, it does give you a little bit of that kind of softer, drier oaty character. But in the dead centre of your palate, you do get a little bit of that Werther's Original butter candy, butterscotchy sort of thing, and that is the alcohol at 10% ABV. That's almost a must with these beers, to be honest with you. But yeah, back third of your palate is quite similar. The bread crust is just a little bit drier. The kind of wet white bready character is a little bit lighter. Then you get the fluffier white bready character above that, which is a bit lighter again and more airy. You can feel a wee bit of the wheaty character creeping over the top of that and giving you some kind of bitiness. And then you've got that big kind of yeasty note coming out of the beer as well. You've got that lovely big kind of yeasty character in there. So the yeasty note for me is like a dry but more dense and slightly sweeter white bread. You can just feel that sitting on top of everything, and definitely once again back third of your palate the flavour is taller, and as you come further forward into the middle third of your tongue it just kind of condenses down and squashes together. So I think that covers the I do think that covers the middle, the malty and yeasty side of things in this beer, sorry. So let's have a little look at the hoppy side of things then. So yeah, for me, hoppy side of things, back corners of the palate, there is a little touch of earthiness in there, but not too much. As you move further forward, there's a little bit of herbal character, but very quickly it becomes quite bright and floral. You do have this big floral aromaticity coming out of this one, which is great. I really do like that. Yeah, that's really nice in this one, I have to say. But on the around the front curve of your palate, you get a softer, kind of more grassy character coming out of it, which is great. And then yeah, the green component for me in this one is a little bit more kind of conventional. It's not quite as cryo oily as you might have expected, to be honest with you. It has got a little bit of that kind of straight up more kind of like powdery bitterness from hop pellets, T90s. But yeah, the way that goes together is quite nice. Let's look at the front third of your palate then to round off. So yeah, front third of the palate, you've got this lovely kind of smooth white bready base in there, a little bit of the bread crust, then you get that nice oily bubble where the juicy fruity esters just roll their way out of the beer. So for me, at the back of that front third of your palate, you've got a little bit more of a stronger passion fruit, but as you move further forward you start to get this big ripe mango. It's maybe got a little touch of a peachy sharpness to it. Then as you reach the middle of that front third of your palate, you've got a good little bit of, as I say, you start to get a little bit more of a kind of soft apricot, papaya type thing. Then into the front half of the front third of your palate you get this nice big oily pineapple character for me. But that's a lovely New England triple, this one. I'm not surprised that it's so good when you've got both Other Half and Monkish involved. That's really right up my street, this one. Let's round off with a wee look at the mouthfeel. So for me, mouthfeel wise, kind of mid-range in the full body part of the spectrum, smooth carbonation, lovely big thick and creamy note to it, a little bit oily and slick, and then you also have just a little bit of dryness into the aftertaste too. In terms of IBUs, I think this is maybe about 50-ish IBUs, 60-ish IBUs at a push. The malt base, as we said, has a bit of dryness underneath, lovely smoothness on top of it, and then you get that little bit of sweetness into the aftertaste. Green component is good, and then yeah, you've got that lovely kind of juicy, fruity sort of thing. Very tropical in a New England triple IPA, this one. So yeah, this was the Extra Space Glitter, a collaboration between Other Half here in Brooklyn, New York, and Monkish Brewing, who are from over in California. So yeah, really enjoyed this one. A big 10% New England triple IPA. Let's leave it at that for this one, and I'll catch you guys in a second with something else. So yeah guys, I actually didn't notice earlier, but it seems they've got a nice little selection of different kind of sour beers and barrel program beers. So yeah, a bourbon barrel aged imperial stout with Horus, which could be quite interesting. Another one here, the Double Sunrise, Logical Progression, a barley wine. Other Half and Omnipoil, Golden Cooks. This one, Les Patisseries, Barrel 61. I'm just here to eat Texan and Party. Another Day in Paradise, Anomalous, Field Studies. Another few ones here with different hops. Racal from New Zealand and Mandarin of Bavaria from Germany. Arbelia, which is Taconic Distillery. And then these two ones here, which are quite interesting. These seem like really interesting kind of wild beers actually, and barrel program. I might need to get one of these to take away, I have to say. So yeah. Alright guys, well, time for tasting number 4 then here at Other Half in Brooklyn in New York. And for this one, we are once again going to go to a style that Other Half are not so well known for. But again, this is a style that I really love, and I'm very curious to see what it has in store for us. So this particular beer is called Doug. It comes in at 7.2% ABV, and they're calling this one a Cascadian Dark Ale. Now, a Cascadian Dark Ale is basically a black IPA, and I'm a bit confused with this one as to why they call it a Cascadian Dark rather than just a black IPA, because for me, a Cascadian Dark was simply a black IPA with only Cascade in it. That was my impression at least. But this beer is hopped with Simcoe, Centennial, Cascade, and Columbus, so all hops that we know quite well. Columbus, of course, is about 12% alpha acid, big kind of spicy floral character. Centennial is about 12% as well. That's going to give you a big sort of a big kind of like lemony, citrusy type note. And then your Cascade we've already been over, and yeah, Simcoe is one we've been over as well. But Simcoe in black IPAs is interesting because it gives you these big red fruity characters that are really, really interesting. But yeah, 7.2% black IPA. I've not had a black IPA in what feels like quite a wee while. But yeah, you can see that this beer is poured kind of as you would expect. It's got a lovely kind of dark ebony rosewood colour to it. When the beer poured, it had about a finger of a frothy, I would say kind of medium tan coloured head in there. 1 or 2 big bubbles sticking toward the side of the glass, and a steady stream of stuff just going up toward the bottom of the head there. But you know, overall it does look pretty damn nice actually, kind of what you'd expect from the style. So yeah, let's see how this one goes. I'm curious as to whether this is going to be a bit more of a kind of New England kind of black IPA or a more West Coasty one. For me, the main difference between New England is that it contains sort of oat and wheat, whereas the more West Coasty ones are only barley malt. And it did say actually that this beer contained a lot of Maris Otter, which is an old school English malt, which is really nice actually. So this should be quite interesting. Let's have a wee look at the aroma. Oh yeah, that smells really nice actually. So for me, the backbone of the beer, you've got that lovely kind of fresh, kind of like rye bready bread crust in there. A little bit of woodiness, of course, as you often get. But yeah, sweet rye bread in there. Kind of like a German pumpernickel almost as well. So sweet rye bread, German pumpernickel, then a wee bit of a more wholemeal brown bready character as well. Quite a bready aspect to this one. But on top of that, there's a little bit of like a toasty caramel. Toasty brown sugar maybe, sweet oily caramel in there as well, and then yeah, sweet oily caramel, and then you've also got like a little bit of a more kind of toasty biscuity kind of character from this one. That's going to be the Maris Otter that gives you that. But so yeah, the malty character in this beer is really, really interesting actually. I love this style, and as I say, there's not enough of them around these days, at least in my opinion. Yeah, so on the on the hoppy side of things, there's a nice little bit of earthiness in there, good little bit of herbal character as well, but then you've got a nice big bright floral note to this one, and quite a sort of oily, grassy character as well. It's actually got quite a little bit of zestiness to it, which I find really interesting. Yeah, the way that this one goes together I think is really quite nice actually. Yeah, interesting stuff, gets a big thumbs up from me. On the fruity side of things, it's interesting. So I do get a little bit of the kind of figgy, grapefruity type thing that you'd expect of the Cascade, but then there's also like black currants and blackberries coming out of this one. And I get a little bit of an almost orangey character too, which is interesting. I remember Centennial gives you this more oily, orangey, lemony type thing when you put it into black IPAs. So yeah, I really do like how that pieces together on this one. This beer is really interesting from that perspective. Yeah, aroma-wise, this is really quite nice actually, so it's a thumbs up from me. On the... Yeah, for me, the fruity side of things, this one is really oily and yeah, more orangey leaning, a little bit of red fruit. It's great, it smells really, really nice, this one. As I always say, take a bit of time to enjoy the aroma of your beers, because this is half the experience when it comes to craft beer. But let's get stuck into this one then. This is the Doug, a 7.2% ABV black IPA. I had to try this one as well because it's my son's name. So yeah, let's get stuck into this one. Slàinte, skål, cheers. There we go. Ooh, yeah. That's really nice. This is interesting because it has a little bit of a kind of sweeter and really rich impact, but then it mellows out and gives you more and more of the dryness. I suspect that this beer, just from the flavour, I think it does have a little bit of wheat and a little bit of oat in it, because it does feel a little bit smoother. It's not quite as clean and oily as you're going to get from some of the more West Coasty type black IPAs. Total black salts and body malts for me was a kind of staple, if you like. But yeah, the way that this one goes together I think is really nice. Big thumbs up for me. Really cool to try a black IPA from a brewery who are not well known for these, of course, as well. But lovely stuff. Yeah. Flavour-wise, this is good. This just hits the spot for me. Middle third of your palate then. The backbone of the beer is that lovely kind of dry, rye bready bread crust in there. It has got a little bit of a toasty, like well-fired bread crust as well, but yeah, you get a rye bready bread crust on top of that. A little touch of woodiness in there, wee touch of cherry character the more into the aftertaste you go. And then yeah, rye bready layer, a kind of And then the rye bready layer is quite interesting. You've got a wholemeal brown bready layer as well, which is great. And yeah, I really do like how that pieces together as well. Yeah, that gets a big thumbs up from me. Yeah, the rye bready sweetness that you get out of this one, I think, is really quite nice, and that lingers there into the aftertaste. But yeah, you get the wholemeal brown bready character on top of that, which I think will be the Maris Otter. Then you start to get the layers of brown sugar, so there's a little bit of toasty brown sugar in there. Then you've got the circle sitting above that, which is like a more oily brown sugary character. So yeah, lovely big oily brown sugary note in this one. And I like a sweeter, it's got a little bit of a toasty note to it, but yeah, then you get the sweeter, very slightly treacly, molassesy note in the very centre of your palate, and that is of course the alcohol coming out of this beer. But you do get a wee bit of a kind of biscuity note coming out of this one into the aftertaste too, and that's the Maris Otter. But yeah, that's the middle third of your palate in this beer. Back third of your palate is quite similar, just different intensities. The bread crust is a bit more charred and dry, the rye bready bread crust is a little bit drier as well, then the rye bready layer is a little bit taller and lighter and more airy. Same with the wholemeal brown bready character, some of the toasty brown sugar just creeps on top of that. Then you've got this lovely kind of a yeasty character coming out of this one, so really dense brown bready character, quite dry as I say, very slightly wrapped in like a kind of honeycomb note. I always get honeycomb on the back third of the palate for some reason, but yeah, really interesting from that perspective. But yeah, back third of the palate you can feel the flavour is taller, then as you come further forward into the middle third of your palate it just kind of condenses down and squashes together that little bit more. But yeah, that's really nice in this one. I think that covers the malty and yeasty side of the beer for me. But yeah, I like that with this for sure. Let's go to the hoppy side of things then. Back corners of your palate. Yeah, you do get a nice little bit of earthiness in there. As you move further forward, it's a little bit herbal, but then you can feel the Columbus coming out in this one, the big sort of spicy floral aromatic notes. Round the front curve of your tongue it's a little bit lighter and more grassy of course. But yeah, it's quite spicy and floral, and then a big oily, grassy, again, slightly zesty character around the front curve of your tongue. On the front third of your palate then, the fruity side of the beer, base is charred bread crust, rye bread crust, and a bit of rye bread. Then you get that nice oily bubble where the juicy fruity esters roll their way out of the beer. And the fruity esters are really nice actually. Yeah, fruity side of the beer is really nice. At the back of that front third of the palate for me, you get that kind of bigger grapefruity note. So yeah, quite a strong grapefruit at the back of that front third of your palate. As you come further forward, it sort of mellows out and gives you a wee bit more of like an oily, figgy type character in there. And then yeah, as you move into the front half of that front third of your palate, it's more about the big, oily, you've got a bit of black currant underneath and then a bit of like blackberry on top of that. But you've also got like a wee bit of a lingering orange, and I think that's the Centennial. The Centennial normally gives you a lemony character, but in a dark malt base it'll give you a more orangey note, and you'll find this. Hops will behave differently depending on what yeasts and malts you put them with, so this is really interesting for me. Yeah, I like that with this one, I have to say that. Lovely beer this, lovely black IPA. But let's round off with a wee look at the mouthfeel then. So yeah, for me, the mouthfeel of this one, it's top end and mid-bodied, the carbonation is quite smooth, lovely little bit of oily slickness in there, bit of crispness to the carbonation which I think is great, and then you also have a good little bit of bitterness to this beer. This one's going to be about 70-ish, maybe 80 IBUs, both from the black malts and from the kind of the hoppy bitterness as well, particularly the Columbus that's in here, because you can really get that big spicy floral note as well. But yeah, the malt base has got roastiness underneath, smoothness and a slight sweetness in the middle, kind of a little bit of brown sugary character, and you've also got that big oily fruity note in there which I think goes together really well. Lovely black IPA this one, and it just goes to show you that Other Half really know what they're doing with different styles of beer as well. But I think that's a good place to round off with this one. This was the Doug a 7.2% black IPA, our fourth and penultimate beer here at Other Half Brewing in Brooklyn. Catch you guys in a second with something else. So yeah guys, I asked and I was told I could walk up here and just kind of show you what the brewing kind of looks like. So you can see, as I say behind us, this is where I was earlier with the canning machine and stuff like this. Filmed a few tastings there. But yeah, you can see here they've got some of their attachments and stuff. But yeah, you walk up here past some of the fermentation vessels and so on. And then yeah, the guys are working away in the brewery. So yeah, you can see the brew kit down there on the left, and the wee forklift truck, and lots more, and the fermenters and things like that. So yeah, pretty cool. Nice to have a little wee quick look at what they're actually doing here. So yeah, let's get back and do another beer tasting. Back to the bar, just over here. Let's do it. Alright guys, time for our fifth and final beer tasting then here at Other Half in Brooklyn. So the last beer that we're going to have a look at is another beer style that Other Half are not really well known for, but I have heard do some really nice examples of this style, and it's also a style that I really enjoy. As you'll know if you've watched the channel for any length of time, I'm a big sucker for the kind of brown sugary, big, boozy beasts. So there was one of those on the menu today, and we're going to have a look at it. So this particular beer is the Barrel Aged Golden Cooks. It's a barley wine coming in at 15% ABV, and I was never going to remember all the stuff that they've done to this, so I've just taken a picture of what was on the list up there, and we're going to have, I'm just going to read this to you. So this one is aged for 18 months in bourbon barrels, then conditioned on vanilla, caramel, potato chips, white chocolate, macadamia nut cookies, golden grahams, cornflakes, honey nut Cheerios, cloud clover coffee, and it's also got a little bit of lactose in it. So yeah, I think this one will be quite interesting to say the least. So yeah, we'll just need to go. But Golden Cooks Barrel Aged, 15% ABV. This one is a collaboration actually with Omnipollo from Stockholm too, and that was another thing that kind of caught my eye actually. But they've got a bottle of it up there that I could maybe buy and take away, but I might get one of the other ones to take away with me actually, because that would be quite cool to get one of the more random Other Half beers for my first proper sit-down solo brewery beer review. So yeah, anyway, as you can see, this beer's poured a lovely kind of dark mahogany chestnut colour. This one, it didn't have any head when the guy poured it for me. One or two bubbles sticking toward the side of the glass, a little bit of carbonation. You can see the odd bubble just going up toward the side of the glass there, but yeah, it looks pretty damn calm, to be honest with you. Big barley wines like this don't tend to have too much in the way of carbonation. But yeah, let's have a wee look at the aroma of this one then and see what it's all about. This should be pretty nice. Yeah, you can tell this is an Omnipollo beer. You can tell it's got Omnipollo's influence in there. As I say, nothing overly surprising about this beer in terms of the appearance. I'm surprised it's not a little bit darker, so that kind of tells me it hasn't had too much in the way of a longer wort boil. But remember, the barrel aging can affect the colour of the beer too. But when you go into this one, you smell the kind of flavours and flavour essences and stuff like that in this straight away. And it does remind me of the more old school Omnipollo Imperial Stouts and things like that I had back in the day. Yeah, this is really interesting. So for me, this beer, it's really, it is really very candy, to be honest with you. It's almost like if you had such a thing as a pasty barley wine, this would probably be it. But yeah, backbone of the beer, you can smell a little bit of that smooth American bourbon wood in there. American oak, as I've explained many a time, for me is a lot smoother and a lot more vanilla than European oak. So yeah, the lovely little bit of vanilla in there. You do get a little bit of the bourbon spirit, but then above that you get all these cakey notes. So yeah, you can smell like cookie dough, a little bit of like a chocolate muffin, chocolate brownie type thing. So yeah, chocolate brownie, chocolate muffin for sure. Then you also have chocolate brownie, chocolate muffin. On top of that, you're getting a lot of like really leathery brown sugar, and if you've got big leathery brown sugars, that's usually an indicator of a longer wort boil. But there's treacle in there, there's molasses for sure, as the Americans would call it. You do get a little bit of that sweeter, kind of more biscuity note out of this one. Straight up caramel as well, a little bit of toasty brown sugar too. But yeah, it really is very much like a chocolate brownie, cookie dough kind of blend that's going on in here. And yeah, you can smell it. It's got a little. The more that you smell of this beer, and the more that you your nose adjusts to it, you get more and more of a kind of. You absolutely get more and more of a kind of graininess out of this one, and that's really interesting for me, I have to say. But yeah, aroma-wise, this is really, really nice. It does really remind me of the very old school Omnipollo stouts that we had back in the day. There is a little bit of chocolate to this one. I would say it's got a kind of, 40-50% sort of more milk chocolate type vibe to it. On the hoppy side of things, you have to remember barley wines are actually quite a hop. They do have quite a little bit of hop character to them, but this is more a kind of it's a barrel aged one for one thing, which means a lot of the hoppy character is going to have dropped out of it. But the barley wine is the big brother of the double IPA, but you do get a little bit of floral and grassy character out of this one. And on the fruity side of things, it's interesting too, because you do have this little bit of the fruity side of this beer for me, you've definitely got a little bit of a datey and kind of pruny side of things. You've got a little bit like a black currant to it. Yeah, datey, pruny, black curranty, blackberry type character. And then you've also got this really like oily peary note to it as well. So yeah, black currants, kind of pear as well. Then date and prune, definitely some kind of sultana type notes. Yeah, aroma wise, this is just really, really nice actually. Yeah, I think that's everything we need to say about the aroma. So let's have a wee taste of this one and just see what it's all about. So yeah, should be good. So this one was the was it Triple Cooks it was called? Golden Cooks, sorry, barrel aged version, 15% ABV barley wine with a shitload of adjuncts in it, brewed in collaboration with Omnipollo from Stockholm back in Sweden. Slange, skål, cheers. Ooh, that is nice. That is very good. If I remember correctly, I've actually tried quite a few of I've had a couple of the IPAs that Other Half have done with Omnipollo, but it's quite cool to come over here to America and see the Swedish influence on the American brewery rather than the American influence on the Swedish brewery. It's quite nice to see the other side of the coin. But I will say, this is lovely. This is quite nostalgic for me because it's very old school Omnipollo, and it really is quite, it really gives me that big sort of old school Omnipollo sort of Noah pecan pie type stout thing. This is a lovely, lovely beer for sure. Yeah, beautiful stuff. Big thumbs up to both breweries in this one. Let's just break it down and describe it a little bit more in depth for you. So the backbone of the beer, you've got this lovely smooth American oaky character to it. Further forward, you've got a little bit more vanilla coming out of the wood. As I've said, that for me is a trait of American oak. A little bit more vanilla character. You can feel a little bit of the sort of bourbon, the bourbon spirit coming out of this one, which I really do like. And then you've got a mix of, above that, you get this sort of cakey kind of thing that I was talking about. You've got a mix of like cookie dough, and then you've got a little bit of a chocolate brownie type character sitting on top of that. Yeah, you maybe have a little bit of rye bread underneath, like between the bourbon sugar. I think above the bourbon sugar there's a little bit of rye bread, but then it's cookie dough. It's you've got cookie dough in there. Then you've got the kind of chocolate brownie. On top of that, you've got a little bit of like cocoa nib, so more of a dry kind of 40-50% cocoa nibby character there. And as you move further forward, it definitely gets more milky, like 20-30% cocoa, really, really milky, chocolatey character there. Above all of that, you start to get the sweet kind of caramelly notes coming out of this one. and it's all the brown sugary character that sits above that. There's a little bit of nuttiness into the aftertaste with this beer as well. So yeah, lovely big. The brown sugary notes for me, you've got a lovely little bit of leatheriness to them, which would indicate a longer wort oil. But then it's very oily above that. You do get a little bit of that treacle molasses, but it's very light and bright treacle molasses, sweet caramel. You do get a little bit of this biscuity, cookie type thing coming out of this one. I have to be aware that obviously I'm filming in America. American English might be a bit better for describing things on here, but yeah, McVitie's digestive biscuit for me. This is everything. The middle third of your palate is where the vast majority of the complexity in this beer is, and that's absolutely what I'm picking up. So I think that's the middle third of the palate describing this one. Let's look at the back third of the palate then. So you've got the bread crust, you've got a little bit of the drier woody character in the base, you've got a bit of the bourbon sugar which is a bit drier, then you've got the cookie dough, or a bit of rye bread in there which is a little bit lighter and more airy, then you've got the cookie dough, you've also got a little bit of the it's more like a chocolate muffin on the back third of the palate. You can feel these layers are lighter and more airy. Some of the leathery brown sugars just creep on top of that. Then you've got the yeasty character. So let's look at that. So for me, the yeasty side of this beer, very dense, very sweet, like brandy soaked fruit roll type, fruit loaf bread type thing coming out of this one. Yeah, big brandy soaked bread in there for me, kind of wrapped in like sweet honeycomb or something like that. And yeah, definitely back third of the palate, the flavour is taller. As you come further forward into the middle third of your palate, it kind of condenses down and squashes together that little bit more. It's absolutely lovely. That covers the malty and yeasty side of the beer. Now on the hoppy side of things, as I said, this is a barrel aged beer. So a lot of the hoppy character has kind of disappeared. It's a little touch earthy, a little touch herbal. As you move further forward, it is very, very smooth, so most of the hoppy character's dropped out. A little bit floral, and then you've got a nice kind of oily grassiness around the front curve of the tongue. So yeah, hoppy character is there, but it has obviously dropped out quite a little bit. Front third of your palate then, the fruity side of things. For me, this beer, the base is, of course, you've got the lovely smooth kind of woody character in there, you've got the bourbon sugar on top of that, then you've got a little bit of the more, for me it's more cookie dough in the front third of your palate, then you get that nice oily bubble where the fruity juicy esters just roll their way out of the beer. So yeah, this is lovely in that sense too. Yeah, so for me, the fruity side of this beer, it's lovely. At the back of that front third of your palate, you do get a little bit of like prune, but underneath that it's a lot of sultana, you know, dry white, green, grapey characters. Beautiful stuff, I have to say. As you move further forward, big like oily, peary characters coming out of it. Then as you move into the front half of that front third of your palate, it's got a little bit of like an oily blackcurrant, and then a wee tiny touch of like a more raisiny note just sitting on top of that. The fruity side of this beer really is quite special in this one. I love these big kind of dry fruity characters that come out of this. Beautiful stuff actually, and it was kind of cool to find an Omnipollo Swedish collaboration here. I didn't actually realise it didn't say on that board behind the bar that this one was an Omnipollo collab. It was only when I saw the bottle that I realised it was so. But yeah, beautiful barley wine this one. Definitely has a lot of the old school Omnipollo kind of flavour essence type vibes to it. So yeah, let's round off this one then with a wee look at the mouthfeel. Mouthfeel wise, full bodied, pushing toward the top end of full bodied, smooth carbonation, big oily slick character with this one. It's beautiful in that sense. I really do like how this pieces together. This is one of the thickest beers I've had in the States so far. But yeah, in terms of IBU with this beer, it's really hard to place. You do get a little bit of dryness from the barrel aging, so you could argue about perceived bitterness versus calculated bitterness. But for me, the bitterness in this beer is pretty low. It's hard to put a figure on it, to be honest with you. But you've got dryness from the barrel, sweetness and oiliness from the yeah, sweetness and oiliness from the bourbon sugar. Then also you've got these big flavour essency layers within the malt base too. Then the big oily brown sugars on top of that, which are great. And then you've also got just a little bit of hoppy character coming out of this one. Nice big sweet oily, pardon me, fruity notes in there as well. And yeah, big dry fruity character. This is a beautiful beer, this one, and this is a really nice way to kind of round off my tastings here at Other Half. So yeah, this one was the bourbon barrel-aged version of Golden Cook's, a 15% barley wine with a shitload of adjuncts in it, brewed in collaboration with Omnipollo from Sundbyberg in the northwest of Stockholm in Sweden. So yeah, that's that. So I'll go outside, I'll give you my final thoughts here on our time at Other Half, and I will catch you guys in just a second. There we go. And try this one if you get a chance. It is beautiful, lovely stuff. Alright guys, well that's the end of my time here then at Other Half Brewing on Centre Street in Brooklyn in New York. You know, I had a really nice couple of hours here. I got to try 2 New England IPAs, which is the style this brewery is very well known for. Both of them were really nice. We also got to try a West Coast IPA, a black IPA and a barley wine, which are styles this brewery is not so well known for. But I think I can safely say now that these guys are a pretty well-rounded brewery when they want to be. It just depends what they want to brew. You will get something of very good quality. In total, I spent $21 on the different beers, so that translates to roughly 20 euros, 200 Swedish kroner, somewhere in the region of like £18 sterling, something like that. So yeah, for doing little tastings and stuff like that, I thought it was really good value, and I did like that they had the smaller size that you could try, and you could try lots of different things if you really wanted to. So that was really nice. The guys behind the bar were great. They let me have a little walk through toward the brewery and things like that. You could see what the guys were doing. They had a nice selection of bottles that you could take away. You could get the cans and the 4-packs out the back. That was really, really nice. So yeah, very positive experience here at Other Half. And yeah, we'll need to see about getting a couple of other things to do proper kind of solo brewery sit-down reviews on the channel in the future. But definitely cool to visit this brewery and try some of their beers at source. Really good time here. Dave and I both really enjoyed it. So that's the end of this one. Thank you again for watching. Check out my social media, check out Other Half Brewing social media. If you find yourself in New York, do come and visit these guys. I had a really nice time. So catch you guys on the next one. Slange, skull, cheers, and see you soon. Other Half Brewing Company, Centre Street, Brooklyn, New York.